Kia ora, bros and girls, welcome back to the channel. So Seatin led the community to a complete revolt against KABAM, and this is what KABAM said. So if you've been under a rock for the last couple of days, you might have noticed that there's a whole revolution happening in the Marvel Contest of Champions community, where everyone's talking a little bit about the game. Seaton started it by taking a big stand by dropping down from a serious alliance, leaving an alliance and going to a casual alliance just due to burnout and due to endgame, compounded with the Act 7 beta. He let off the news that he's going to do that, and that rippled throughout the MCOC universe, and it led to a reply from KABAM. So if you want to hear what they had to say, watch right till the very end. Now, I think this is, first of all, I think this is actually really good progression, and it shows the unity of the whole Marvel Contest of Champions community. And a lot of content creators have come up and they've talked about this the subject, they've talked about this issue, and everyone has had a little bit of feedback to give, some improvements, and of course some complaints. So with that being said, let's see what KABAM said. They say, like to start by thanking blah blah blah, and there's the reshape of the face of the content. What's required is more than just replacing some problematic defenders and retuning some attack values. There's work to be done. I think this is huge. The fact that it's not just about replacing a few defenders, bringing the numbers back up or down. They're talking about a complete redesign of Act 7. They start off by saying, we're eager to start designing more nodes and encounters that don't punish players for not bringing in the perfect counter, and do more to reward optimal play. We also acknowledge that optimal play shouldn't mean bring one of these 5 specific champs, or I hope you like intercepting, except for in very specific situations. This isn't to say that there won't be some content that requires narrow counters, but it shouldn't be entire chapters of an act. We want to use more positive feedback loops, like buffs that deliver on a satisfying damage spike when the right moves are made. We also want to be more forgiving, informative, and less commonly used negative feedback loops, similar to the combo of spiked armor with dulled. Let's just go through this. So if this is fantastic news. The first point is they're saying that it's not just going to be a handful of metas. You have Domino, you have Cap, you have Doom, you have Corvus Glaive, and that kind of solves your entire problems. They're talking about changing this and making a little bit more about the way you play, the play style, and rewarding you for playing really well in the fight, irrelevant of the champ that you bring. This is one big thing that all of us brought up, and I'm very glad that KABAM listened and took that on board and may start to change that. If you think this is a big change, watch the video right until the very end, because they say something even bigger right at the end. So let's go through number 2. Number 2, they say, we're going to be more mindful and deliberate with our counterplay and encounter design. Even the most enjoyable buff node combinations can be utterly ruined with the wrong defender. 100% true. Even then, viable champions use is more complex than do they have access to X buff, or how consistently can they apply Y debuff. Attack and health values are an integral aspect of design that should be deliberately examined and set rather than tuned based on legacy or perceived necessary challenge. So I think this is a little bit of a difficult one to explain or understand, but I think basically what they mean is that rather than just take what happened in old content, add a few nodes, and then scale the attack and HP as they kind of do. Basically they say like, okay, well, if it was 20,000 PI in Act 5, then it's 40,000 PI in Act 6, and then it must be 80,000 PI in Act 7. But sometimes, specifically if you have really nasty nodes and tough nodes, that enlargement in health, along with the combination of nodes, becomes a real problem, a real tough fight, and this probably is what leads down to very narrow counters. So I think what they're saying here is that they're going to look more in depth and in detail about the full package rather than just going, okay, this is how you counter the node, and then this is just generally what we're going to scale Act 7 up to. So I think this is a good progression. The next thing they say, remember, wait till right at the end of the video, they leave a very big nutshell, which is really, really cool. The third thing they say is you have invested or want to invest in more than just God tier or beyond God tier champions. While we can't promise story content, they'll give you a reason to dust off your 2 stars, and nobody expects us to be honest, or a better reason to chase X-Force Deadpool. We know that it gets stale only using the same 3 to 5 answers for everything, which is what a lot of us have said. We want to do a better job designing content so that players are able to take in the best champions they have on hand and feel like they have and stand a solid chance, while still maintaining the RPG knowledge and skill are an important factor. We respect the investments players have made in their robots and their bleed champs and their buff-centric cosmic champions, and don't want them to feel like a waste of resources. We're going to revisit old designs and come up with new ways to reuse them in future content that adds value to the solutions you all found the first time you overcame them. Now, if you watched my previous video, you'll know that I complain about this a lot. Like, people have spent money, they've spent time, they've spent resources, ranking up 4 stars and 5 stars, ranking up metas, and this is a big problem that everybody complains about. I spent so much time ranking up Blade, and now they're bringing out content that makes Blade irrelevant. I spent so much time and resources ranking out Sentinel, and now they've got all these anti-robot nodes. And what they're talking about here is that you should be able to bring in your strongest team, whatever that might be, and hopefully with good play, you stand a chance to take on that chapter, so that not everyone is aiming for the same 3, 4, 5 champs that can do this content, and the rest just don't have a chance, which is the current state of the game. In the current state of the game, if you have Domino, and if you have Doom, and if you have, Symbiote Supreme, you can do a lot of the content. And if you don't, and if you have Aegon, and if you don't have those, then you're kind of screwed. All right. So the final thing they said, and I think this is probably the biggest nutshell, the biggest thing that they've dropped to let us know that they've listened, is they say there's a lot more than that as well. We're still pouring over the awesome mountain of feedback we've been getting. There's a lot of information to absorb and work to be done. You may not hear back from us on this for a little while, but don't take that as a bad sign. We're taking a step back so we can reevaluate the long-term vision for this chapter and Book 2, Act 1 as a whole. This also is not meant to address the feedback on other areas of the game that we have received recently, but only about the new Act content. We want to thank you all again and let you know that your concerns, your questions, and your comments are being heard. They are what we're going to use to make the next saga of the contest better. Now, the reason I think this is so big, guys, is they're talking about not just Act 7, they're talking about all the feedback that we've given as a community. They're talking about they have listened to us as a community. All the content creators have come out and they've made a stand and they've said their piece, and KABAM is listening. All you guys have flooded the forums and left comments on these videos and supported us and told us your thoughts, and KABAM is going to use all that stuff to modify the game and make it hopefully more enjoyable. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that KABAM has done enough? Do you think there's more stuff that can be changed? Do you think this is positive or negative? Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them and I'd love to reply to them. And if you enjoyed the content, guys, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on your bell notification. And we'll stay tuned for more updates of this whole Seatin versus KABAM saga. And I'd like to give a shout out to Seatin, actually. Thank you so much for starting this whole revolution, mini revolution, I'll say, because it's going to make the game better in the long run and long into the future. All right, ka kite ano, bros and girls. We'll see you in the next one.